Let me just make sure we're good on Facebook. Okay, we are live. Hi, Erin.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing good.
Good. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I hope you guys all had a nice holiday weekend, those of you that celebrated. I'm so excited for this week's sales training because we have Erin Anderson here today, and she is going to talk to us about how we all, as business owners, can leverage the power of LinkedIn to get more visible, get more clients, and grow our business. So thanks for being here, Erin. Do you have a sentence or two that you want to share a little bit more about your background?
Yeah, sure. So after transitioning from corporate to career transition coaching, which I also do, I found that a lot of entrepreneurs were struggling in the LinkedIn space. So as career professionals, we are basically subjected to use it. It's part of grad school programs, undergrad programs. And kind of when we set out into the LinkedIn entrepreneur world, we think it's only Instagram or we think it's only Facebook groups, and we don't necessarily explore all those other areas. And so I had a lot of demand and requests for people wanting to figure out how to find their ideal clients on LinkedIn. I personally believe everybody's ideal client is on LinkedIn, but for specific business owners, their clients are definitely on that platform. For example, executive coaching, career professionals, franchise coaches, their professionals are on that platform. And so knowing how to optimize your content and also your profile is key.
Beautiful. And I can vouch for how good she is at what she does. And Erin is in my mastermind. And I agree. I think everyone's ideal client is on LinkedIn. I kind of always think that. I think it's a convenient excuse when people are like, no, that just won't work for me. So let's dive in. Let's start with the entrepreneur who you're talking about, the person who's gotten into business. They kind of think Instagram and Facebook is the only way, and they're probably wanting to pull their hair out with both. Where do they begin with LinkedIn from the basics of like starting a business profile?
Sure. So I think it really starts with transitioning from corporate. I call it the corporate stale profile, where it's something that we created, we kind of left up. We might even be a few years into business and it's still sitting there. And actually it doesn't even show that we have a business or that we ended in our last position. It still looks like we're still working for that corporation. Mm-hmm. So first starting point is going on there and making sure that you're optimizing it for you and your business, which usually means really refining the whole profile, because whatever we were doing previously, even if it's related, it's very different from a keyword perspective of what we're doing now. So for example, when it comes to skills or our headline or now our company page, that addition of it, how are we going to change it to make sure that we're going to be found by our business and no longer what we were doing? Mm-hmm. I hear a lot of entrepreneurs say, I'm not logging onto LinkedIn because I don't want I don't want to, be bombarded with all those recruiter messages that are still sitting there. They're still sitting there because they didn't end their position and they never showed that they were actually an entrepreneur. So of course you're still being recruited, mm-hmm. and that's not a negative thing, but let's go ahead, take it down, and let's transition you into a business. A few mistakes I see quite frequently are people aren't adding company pages. And so it kind of looks like you're freelancing and not necessarily like you own your own business. Right. Which again, nothing wrong with that. But if you've taken the stage to leave corporate and now you're in your role, I would definitely advocate for creating a company page. I think one of the biggest starting points really is the banner on LinkedIn. This is really I compare it to a billboard on a highway. It's giving us direction. It's telling us where to go. And we always gravitate towards the ones that are more eye-catching and have a really strong call to action. So a lot of the times when I land on, even entrepreneurs with 70,000 followers on LinkedIn, when I land there, they're not telling me what to do. So they're getting probably millions of views every month, and it's not giving us really clear calls to action. LinkedIn has the ability to catch the audience more than we do on Instagram because of this banner. We don't have that on Instagram. And so picking a really strong call to action and a picture that demonstrates you doing so. So maybe it's a professional headshot, but it shows a little bit more of your personality, or maybe it's showing you in your environment or speaking. LinkedIn is one of the key areas for speaking opportunities. Show a picture of you speaking, but most importantly, when you're thinking of that call to action, where is it that clients typically find you? What are you hearing in applications? And then I would go ahead and apply that to the banner area.
That was so powerful. You could do that in just a day and you would probably see a huge difference in your presence. And so to be clear, you think that it's worth really maximizing your personal LinkedIn more, like that's a little bit more powerful. You want a company page, but like the power is your personal profile.
Yeah, good question. So you definitely want the company page for visibility, professionalism. Interestingly enough, they tend to be different followers. So who follows your business page does tend to be different than your personal. And sometimes that's because of also who it is that wants to work with you. If it's an organization, if it's a university that wants you for a speaking engagement, they're more likely to follow your business page, and that's great. Maybe that's where you talk to organizations. On your personal page, you're trying to reach, connect, get the like, know, and trust factor going on your personal page. And the way the algorithm works, your content will always, always perform better on your personal page because the algorithm pushes it up further. But thinking about your audience. So again, business page being organizations. So changing your language more and your calls to action on there being different from your personal page. And you're trying to connect and relate to the individual.
Really good, especially because entrepreneurship these days is so heavily influenced and just really highlights the person behind the brand. I mean, I really feel like it's about storytelling these days and the personal connection with the brand. So you really have such an opportunity to do it here. And, you know, I think Instagram and Facebook is so frustrating for people because you're trying to beat this algorithm and you have to end up paying a lot of money oftentimes to use ads and things like that. So kind of going off of what you said about using your LinkedIn profile for that know, like, and trust, I think that really speaks to people who are used to Instagram, which is what they use it for. What could that look like on your personal profile? What do you post? How do you connect? What is like the basics of that?
Yeah. So the first thing is that if you're going to hop on LinkedIn, you're going to take the time to do it. The number one thing I see people think that LinkedIn is and it's not is that they try to sell automatically. I've had clients that we've probably all had them that we fired in a sense and just decided that it wasn't necessarily a good working relationship because they wanted to hop on those platforms and sell an $8,000 program right off the bat without ever having posted before. And I'm not saying that's going to work on Instagram, but you'd have an easier time, maybe at least getting one person to sign up that's seen you somewhere else versus LinkedIn. And so it's creating content that is relatable to your audience. And what I mean by that is you have about 3 to 5 lines on when you create a post on LinkedIn to capture your audience's attention. If it's an image post, it's 3. If it's just a text post, it's 5. And in those 5 or 3 lines, you need to be able to capture your audience's attention close enough that they're going to keep reading the post. And the only way to do that is to make sure that your content relates to everybody. So it shouldn't just relate to entrepreneurs. It shouldn't just relate to career professionals or whoever your ideal client is. It needs to relate to everybody because I want everyone to read it. And the reason is the difference with LinkedIn than any other platform is if you posted today and I liked it or commented, now all of my connections have the ability to see your content and you. So when we're looking at like the number of story views or we're looking at the number of likes we get on Instagram, we could have thousands of followers on Instagram. And then we look at our story views and it's like a fraction, right? So on LinkedIn, it's typically the opposite. So if we have, for example, 2,000 followers on LinkedIn, we can reach millions on just our post alone. And so, what's ideal, right? Like at least thousands in the beginning. So whenever I post, I'm reaching more people in terms of views than I would have just from my followers. And so that's key with LinkedIn. And so because you want everyone to like and comment because that promotes your post, then it's finding a way to create content that regardless of what anybody does, because that's not the point of the post, the point is to spread the post. So how can we engage people so that it spreads to everybody's connections?
That is so powerful. It's like free marketing, free visibility. How do you rationalize like still making content for your ideal client, but not being too exclusive?
Yeah. So for example, I also do career transition. If I'm doing a post about career transition or toxic work culture, I'm not going to apply it to a specific industry because everybody's gone through a career transition at some point.
Got it.
So I'll target entrepreneurs, I'll target career professionals, I'll target people probably that are still sitting in their desk thinking they don't even need it. But the way that I craft the message, everyone's going to be able to relate. So my call to action at the end might be something around the lines of, being sensitive. For example, you would never want a call to action to be something along the lines of, tell me about what is the most toxic thing you're seeing in the office right now? Because different than Instagram, on LinkedIn, you have to remember that your managers, if you're as a career professional are on there, or if you're an entrepreneur, your clients are there. For example, tell me about your most toxic client or something. Well, you're probably connected with them. So you have to be very careful and what that call to action is, because the biggest thing here is that people should feel comfortable answering and comfortable with people seeing their comment, because it's much more exposed than a comment would be on Instagram.
Right, right. So yeah, you kind of have to be careful with it, but it can be very powerful. So it sounds like you still can talk to your ideal client. You just want to be like,
sure. Yeah. I would think of it more as the topics around what attracts your ideal client. So right. For example, if I was going to talk LinkedIn strategy, I would talk LinkedIn strategy for everybody, not just entrepreneurs, even though that's what I specialize in. So I would make sure that everybody should benefit. The biggest thing with LinkedIn is what are you providing of value? The more that you provide value, the more your followers increase. And then the more people are going to reach out to you after seeing a post, and making it relatable. Asking yourself after you create that post, can everybody relate to this? That's one of the biggest things. Can everybody feel that at one point in their life that they feel a connection to this post? Because you really need to drive home with emotion. Mm-hmm. Another thing with that is if you're talking about a storytelling works well on LinkedIn, you want to make sure that in those 3 to 5 lines that I feel like this post is going to end on a happy note, that regardless of what's being talked about, unfortunately, it could be like the war in Ukraine, that we're going to take a positive spin in some which way. Same thing with toxic work culture. If we're going to dive into toxic work culture, what is the silver lining, or what is the happy ending, or what is the lesson that we can take out of that? As long as I feel like I'm going to get that by the end of the post, that's what's going to get people to keep reading.
So such good tips. So do you are linking to content elsewhere, like on your website, you would say typically, like a blog post?
That could be part of your call to action. LinkedIn does prefer when there aren't links, but it depends what you're doing. So right now, if you're in the season of your business where you're recruiting for a program, then you would want to go ahead and put that link at the bottom. It could be a link in the comments, because it does help a little bit to put it there instead of the post. But as long as you have enough content above the link, then it will still work really well. So your call to action might be like a Calendly link, or, a link to your new program.
Right. Okay, great. So this is so insightful. And so, you're talking to entrepreneurs here. What, I know every business will be different, but what kind of effects can they see and results can they see in terms of getting clients and growing their visibility and growing their business with a good LinkedIn strategy? And I know you have a whole program on this, so feel free to share more about how you could help people with that.
Yeah. So 2 key things here, I think, is I do all organic. So I don't do any automation. There's a lot of LinkedIn experts that focus on automation, and it's just not sustainable long-term, because you're really burning relationships from the sense of that people are getting targeted and automated messages. And we know it never stops at one. People know it's not you. And sometimes they're quite insulted because it looks like, because you didn't actually go ahead and look into who they are. And some of these are really high profile people. So the first thing is being organically found. I can't tell you how many clients I've gotten from just having an organic profile that I've created that is optimized and works with the algorithm, and also for speaking engagements. So when people find the topics that I speak on, if they see a speaker picture, for example, on another profile, that's going to attract them to you. You're making it easy for them. You've used the keywords. I call it LinkedIn SEO. It's the same exact thing, but on the platform. And the more optimized you are on LinkedIn, it also helps with Google SEO. So if you have a website and you pay or don't pay, if you search your name, LinkedIn's actually one of the first things that appears. But the more that you start to target those keywords, especially in your area, the more that Google is going to start to boost that post. Mm-hmm. And so, making sure, I would say, just like actionable steps moving forward, is making sure to create a banner that really speaks to everybody, and using those keywords that you would use if an SEO expert was going to come to your website and design it for you. Same thing on LinkedIn. Really start to craft those in your headline, in your about section. Tell stories and make relatable content. When it comes to entrepreneurs, the reason why LinkedIn is so different is that it's saving time. Because it's built organically, it works long-term and it's sustainable. So the more followers that you get, the more that you're creating content. There's unlimited number of followers. There's a 30,000 connection cap, and that's why they created the follower button. The more that your message is going to spread, again, with that like and comment strategy. There's just not another platform that does that as well to have a higher reach. And so, yes, I run a program. It's called LinkedIn for Entrepreneurs. And it is starting next week. And I still have I have a link, as well as a coupon for $200 off that program that I am currently running. It's a 6-week program for entrepreneurs with a 60-minute call each week, a week to implement in between. But the whole point of this program really is to make sure that you're gaining the confidence and that you feel confident by the end that now you have an organic built profile, because I also help you along the way in their support. And then by the end that you're comfortable crafting content, hopping on the platform, even if it's once a week, and creating something that's really going to increase the visibility of your business.
Amazing. And so just because I know so many people are, so on Instagram, how would you compare this to Instagram in terms of like ease of visibility? I think Instagram, sorry, Ruby, stop it. I think Instagram is one of the most frustrating things for entrepreneurs because they think they're going to get very visible, and that's just not what it's designed for. So do you have any comparison between the two?
So I would check your views. When you're going ahead and you're posting something, you will see the increase in views based on who's liking and commenting. So the biggest thing I would say here is when someone likes and comments, obviously it helps you a little bit on Instagram. It helps a lot. And that's why that call to action is so important, because you want to get the conversation going. The more relatable it is, the more people want to engage. And so, for example, I could post a story today, maybe 150 people are going to watch it. I have a lot more followers, but if I go ahead and post something and actually take maybe 30 minutes to craft a really strong LinkedIn post, I always usually get at least 2 clients from it. And people are going to start to create a message. So for example, something that I posted a while ago, it reached, I think like 12 or 13,000 views. And at the time, I think I had like 35,000 LinkedIn followers. So it's really quadrupling your views based on how many followers that you have if you're fully optimizing. So for me, it's really a time saving because I see a much larger ROI on LinkedIn than I do on Instagram.
I think most people probably would, especially if you have started your Instagram in the last few years. It's just a different landscape than it was when it was like 10 years ago. So this was so insightful. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. And I will put the link to your program under the comments here. If, for anyone watching this, if you want to join, then you can find it there. Where else can people find you if people just want to reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. If I'm on Instagram, I'm at Your Brand Networker, and then also the same on LinkedIn. And my last name is SEN instead of SON. So important to know when you're looking me up, but I also have the link to my program and my Instagram profile as well.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us, Erin. This was really helpful. And I think so many people are craving new ways of visibility. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Erin.
Talk soon.